Hey everyone, it's Jananie and welcome back to my channel, The Story Ain't Over. So today I'm coming to you with another ginormous book haul, and I know I said I wasn't going to buy too many books this year, like that's one of my goals, but a lot of these I actually kind of bought in December of 2020 and just in the lead up of knowing that my province was going to go into a lockdown because of the whole COVID situation. So this is my second book haul of books I bought to read during quarantine. So where I live in Ontario in Canada, we are in a lockdown and this is like lasting beyond just a month. So I bought a bunch of books that I was hoping to read during this time. A lot of them kind of span different genres and just vibes that I'm just feeling right now. But a lot of the books on this haul were also sent to me by publishers, and a bunch of them were from some subscription boxes as well. So I thought I'd show you them here. Alright, so the first set of books that I have here are the Daughter of Smoke and Bone series. So Daughter of Smoke and Bone, Days of Blood and Starlight, and Dreams of Gods and Monsters. So these are the new US covers that they recently released, and I was just in love with the colors that they have, and I really just wanted to pick up the series. For those of you who have seen my series I want to finish in 2021 video, I have read Daughter of Smoke and Bone, but I never got around to picking up the later books in the series, and I read this like over 5 years ago, so I hardly remember anything that happens in it. So I really wanted to go and pick this up again and then finish off the series, and I personally just really love Laini Taylor's writing. I think she's a gorgeous writer, and I loved her Strange the Dreamer series, so I really wanted to pick up her first trilogy, and I think it's just gonna be amazing, and so many of you have told me that it's like a wonderful series, so I'm super excited for it. But all I really know about this is that it involves a devil and an angel falling in love and a world ripping apart. But the first book I vaguely remember follows a main character named Karu, and she has this ability to like go into this other world, I believe, and meets these other magical creatures and people. And she's actually a art student in Prague, which I thought was such an interesting setting, and I remember picking it up and I was like, this is so weird, but I love it, and it's just really beautifully written. Alright, the next book that I bought is one that I've actually already read, and that is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I was literally looking at my bookshelves the other day and realized that I didn't have this book on my shelves, like I had never bought it, and I couldn't for the life of me remember why, and then I realized that I had actually read this via the audiobook when I first picked it up, I think in 2018, whenever it came out, and I remember everyone just being so excited about it and thinking it was amazing, and I picked it up and I absolutely loved it. It was such a great book, and I do own the author's newer book, Daisy Jones and the Six, because I just bought that when it came out. So yeah, I was looking at my shelves and I was like, I have Daisy Jones, but where's Seven Husbands? And then I was like, okay, well I need to rectify that situation. I absolutely love this book, so I wanted to be able to like have the copy so I could like consistently recommend it. But yeah, this is a wonderful book. It follows our main character, Evelyn Hugo, but the frame narrative of the book actually follows the main character, Monique, who is a magazine writer, I think, and she goes off to interview Evelyn Hugo in one of her like final interviews ever of her career, and she's like this huge Hollywood star, and so Monique is going to be getting like the full untold story of Evelyn's life, all of these secrets that no one knows, and especially about her 7 different husbands that she had over her life. And it's just this really wonderful and beautiful story, and I just absolutely loved it. It was such a great read, so highly recommend. Alright, the next book that I bought is The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. So for those of you who watched my top 21 wishlist books I want to read in 2021, you know that I really wanted to pick up this book, and I know I said I was gonna like read these books before buying them, but I just really wanted to pick this one up in February, and I couldn't actually get it from the library because like everyone had it on hold, and like one of my libraries just didn't have it, so I decided to just buy the book. And I have a really strong feeling that I'm gonna love it, so I was like, this is probably safe to just get right now. And so many people have told me wonderful things, but all I really know about this is that it's sort of a fantasy, and the main character is this 40-year-old man named Linus, and he is a caseworker for the department in charge of magical youth, which is just so interesting. It's such a cute concept, but he lives in like this little house with his cat and his old records, and he's a very by-the-book person, and he is given kind of this mission or task to travel to this like remote island with this orphanage of 6 or 7 different magical youth, and he's supposed to determine whether these kids are going to bring about the destruction of the world. And I love this entire concept. It's kind of giving me Good Omens vibes for some reason. I love that show. I haven't read the book yet, but I really want to. And this just feels like something kind of whimsical and fun, kind of in that Neil Gaiman-esque vibe, and I just am loving it. So really excited for it, and I do believe that it is queer in some way, like that's what I've heard. So I am very, very excited about it. All right, the next book that I bought is From Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout. I kind of bought this on a whim because I was feeling like reading some romance, and I did put it on my January TBR. When I'm filming this, I'm still in the middle of this book, but I'm hoping to finish it before the end of January because it's on my TBR and I really want to finish my TBR. But so far I'm enjoying it. Like, I don't have really high expectations for it because I know that it's mostly a romance and the fantasy bits are just like an add-on. And honestly, I'm not like looking for a book to like change my life. I'm just looking for like a good romance to read. So I've heard that it has like some good steamy bits as well, which is fun. But it is like a massive book, so it's like kind of taking me a long time to get through, but it is fun and I'm enjoying the like initial concept of it. And what I didn't know before picking it up was that there are vampires in it, which was kind of cool. Like, I'm not very far into the book right now, but I like that there's like this extra vampire aspect. But yeah, for those of you who don't know, it follows our main character Poppy, who's something called the Maiden, and she's supposed to be like untouched and like never, you know, get into a relationship, that kind of thing, because she's promised to the gods, I believe, and she's gonna ascend, and there's like this whole destiny behind that. But obviously she wants what she can't have. Then there's also like this romance that kind of develops with her and one of the palace guards, and I'm just really interested by the entire concept. So yeah, it's so far fun. I'm like not very far through, so that's why I don't have much to say about it yet, but excited to finish it. The next two books that I bought were also because of some new covers that came out, and so they are Fire and Bitter Blue by Kristen Cashore. So for those of you who don't know, this is the Graceling Realm series. So there is a first book, Graceling, and I was trying to get the new cover for it, but whenever I ordered it from Chapters, like in Canada, I kept getting the old cover, which was driving me nuts. So I'm just gonna wait until I can go buy it in store and pick up the new cover because they are gorgeous. But I did order these two and they came with the new cover, so that was great. And although I love this series, I only actually ever owned the first and second book, so Graceling and Fire. I never actually had Bitter Blue, so I'm excited to have this now. And I'm really hoping to reread this series so that I can read the new installment that just came out. And the lovely people at Penguin Teen were kind enough to send me that new fourth installment, which is Winterkeep by Kristen Cashore, and this is kind of a new installment to the series that continues off of the last book. So the first three books in the series are kind of companions. You don't really need to read them in order or like together. Each one follows a different main character and their own story, and they are set in like a fantasy world and involve some really great romances as well. But this fourth installment actually picks up after the end of the third book and follows that same main character, Bitter Blue. So I'm really interested to see where this is gonna go. I will admit that Bitter Blue was not my favorite out of the three original books, but I still want to see if like any of the old characters kind of show up in this one, and I'm just really excited by the fact that the author decided to return to this world because I just thought it was so interesting in the way that she like crafted the fantasy world, and the magical powers in it was just super, super cool. But yeah, highly recommend. Graceling is one of my favorite like YA fantasies ever. It's just so well done. It's both literary but also has some really great romance, and it's just a wonderful read, so just go pick it up. Like, trust me, you'll love it. Alright, and then Penguin Teen was also kind enough to send me A Taste for Love by Jennifer Yen, and I honestly love this cover. It's so freaking cute. Like the two main characters with their bubble tea, and I just love it. So A Taste for Love follows her main character, Lisa Yang, who has this complicated relationship with her mother. Her mother thinks that she's like not living up to par the same way that her sister is, and Lisa's just kind of lived under her sister's shadow. But Lisa and her mother kind of agree on one thing, which is baking. They both love it, and Lisa's mother actually owns a bakery, and so Lisa decides to join this annual junior competition for baking. But when she gets to the competition, she finds out that it's all a setup by her mother to set her up with these eligible Asian American young men, and it's just this wonderful bachelorette situation, and you know, she's just caught up between all of these wonderful men and this one very hot contestant named James, who she can't help but start to feel something for. And I just honestly love this entire setup. It's just so cute. And I also just love that there's baking involved too. So I think this is going to be a super fun read, and I actually really want to pick it up soon. So yeah, excited for this. And I just love the entire cover package and stuff. They have the takoyaki here, and then they've got the bubble tea, and then they've got the cake on the back, and like I think a mango salad or something, and it's just super, super cute. Alright, and then next I have a couple books that were sent to me by the Epic Reads team at HarperCollins. So the first book is Concrete Rose by Angie Thomas. So I'm super excited about this book. It was one of my most anticipated releases for 2021 and it's in that video. So super excited to pick it up because this is a prequel to The Hate You Give. So in The Hate You Give, the main character is Star, and this book actually follows her father, Maverick, and I believe this takes place in the 90s, and that's about all I know. We know some of Maverick's history from The Hate You Give. So there's all this history going on with him, and I am just super excited to like learn more about Star's family, because one of the highlights for The Hate You Give for me was Star's family and just the like very strong bond that they all have. So I am very excited to pick this up, and I think it's going to be amazing, as all of Angie Thomas's books are. So looking forward to this. Alright, the next book that they sent me is also another anticipated release for me, and that is Muse by Brittany Cavallaro. So for those of you who don't know, Brittany Cavallaro is the author of the Charlotte Holmes series, which was one of my favorite series in like the past couple of years. It's just so much fun. It's a Sherlock Holmes retelling that's sort of gender bent. So Sherlock is a girl and it's set in our modern day. So I just love that whole series, and when I found out that she had another book coming out, I was super excited about that. And I do believe that this has more of like a feminist bend to it, and it is sort of a sci-fi dystopian fantasy from what I can tell, but it's also historical. So it's like an alternate history. It's set in 1893, and in this alternate version of the world there is like a monarchy in America, and the main character is the daughter of a like famous inventor, and there's this whole concept of him believing that she's his muse and that she has some sort of ability there. And when she tries to plan an escape from her father, she ends up sort of running into one of the young rulers named Remy, I believe. And Remy also has this belief that the main character's touch brings on some sort of inspiration and magical power, and the two of them kind of end up teaming up to stop his political rivals and just like stop the unrest in America. But the main character doesn't really want to be the muse, and she is also starting to find herself falling in love with Remy, I believe. It's just really weird, interesting concept, and I'm like struggling to even explain what this is about without having read it. So I'm really excited to pick it up. I think it's going to be really interesting, and I just cannot wait. So if anyone has read an early copy of this, let me know what you thought of it. Alright, the next book that I have is an ARC that was sent to me by Source Books Fire, and that is Sunny Song Will Never Be Famous by Suzanne Park. So I'm actually really excited about this because it seems like so much fun. But basically it follows her main character, Sunny Song, who is a social media influencer, and like one of her big goals is to reach 100k followers. But unfortunately for her, she's getting shipped off to a digital detox camp, summer camp, where she is not allowed to use her phone, I think, and like not allowed to use anything digital. So she's like ripped away from everything that she enjoys and loves and like is used to, and is forced to make some, you know, unlikely friendships and fall in love potentially over this summer. And the description doesn't say much more than that, but I think the whole concept is just really interesting, just like the idea of a social media influencer. So I'm excited to see if I'll end up liking this. I think it's going to be a lot of fun and definitely a fun kind of summer read. Okay, and then the next two books that I have were sent to me by Wednesday Books, so thank you so much to them. And they sent me White Stag and Goblin King by Cara Barbary. And I don't know too much about these, but I know they are a fantasy, and White Stag is the first book and Goblin King recently came out. But it follows our main character, who is the last child in a family of daughters, and so she is trained to become the male heir for her family, and so she's training to hunt and track and fight. But one day when her village is completely burned to the ground, she is taken captive by this man named Lydian, who sends her off to work for his son, Soren. And I believe Soren is from like this court of monsters from what I can tell, and when the Goblin King suddenly dies, it ignites this like hunt for a new heir, and Soren and the main character kind of get mixed up in this. So I think it's going to be quite an interesting book, and these two were actually on Wattpad before, so they are Wattpad sensations that were later published as books. So I'm curious about that. If anyone has read these or, you know, read them on Wattpad, let me know. I'm quite interested about them. Alright, and then next I have a bunch of books from different subscription boxes. So the first one that I have is the book in the December Owl Crate box, and that is These Violent Delights. So I ended up taking the dust jacket and flipping it inside out because it's super pretty, and this was a really fun read from 2020. It is set in 1920s Shanghai and follows these two main characters that used to be in love but not anymore. They're from two rivaling gangs, and this is kind of based off of Romeo and Juliet. So it's a lot of fun. Highly recommend if you're looking for kind of a romance but also kind of a mystery, because there is a really strong element of a mystery in this book. So I thought it was just super fun, and I love this artwork for the Owl Crate edition. So excited about this. And then in the December Illuma Crate box, I got The Cousins by Karen M. McManus. So this is the paperback in the box. box, and it has these wonderful black sprayed edges, which I love. But I have actually never read a Karen M. McManus book. I know she is the writer of One of Us is Lying, but I don't usually pick up like YA mysteries / thrillers that often, so I'm excited to potentially try this out. It follows a like set of cousins who are kind of disowned by their family, but many years later they are invited to spend the summer at their grandmother's resort, and so they're trying to figure out what's kind of going on and what initially led to their disownment. And then in that same Illumicrate box I also received The Ravens by Cass Morgan and Daniel Page, and from what I know about this, it is set in a sorority and it follows two different main characters, but there is a bit of witchery going on, a bit of supernatural stuff, and I am just super excited about that kind of aspect of this book. And there is a bit of a rivalry as well between the two main characters. And then I also received a special edition from Owlcrate of How the King of Alflame Learned to Hate Stories by Holly Black. So this is a new kind of addition to the Cruel Prince series, the Folk of the Air series, and this is a collection of short stories set in that kind of universe, and they are all stories about how Cardan learned to hate stories. Cardan, the Cruel Prince, the King of Alflame by the end of the series. And this edition is just super pretty. I think the original is like white. This is a nice green, and this whole collection is illustrated, so it's super, super pretty. So I think it's gonna be just like a fun little thing to curl up with and read and like get through a story at night. I think it's just gonna be really fun in that way. And then the last book that I have for this haul is the book from the December Fairy Loot box, and that is Master of One by Jada Jones and Danny Bennett. So I knew nothing about this book before getting it in the Fairy Loot box, and after reading the description, I think it's super cool. So if anyone has read this, let me know what you thought of it, because I'm just so interested by it. But basically it's set in this like fantasy city, and it follows our main character Rags, who is like a bit of a thief, and he is kind of captured by this like sorcerer named Morian, who tasks him with finding these 6 relics for him. And it turns out that these relics are actually people, and they all come from like totally different backgrounds, and Rags ends up teaming up with those 6 other people to stop the sorcerer, because it turns out that Rags is actually one of these relics that the sorcerer wants to use for some sinister plan. And I just think it's gonna be really cool, and I just want to tell you a little bit about each of those characters. So a distractingly handsome Fae Prince who has been asleep for centuries, a Queensguard deserter with more honor than common sense, a daughter of a disgraced noble family who hits first and asks questions later, a deceptively sweet-natured prince, a member of the underground resistance, neither trusting nor trustworthy, and him, Rags. So those are the 6 or 7 people in this story, and I just find like their descriptions just really interesting, and it's giving me like kind of a Six of Crows vibe, but also a strange kind of Witcher vibe for some reason, and I couldn't tell you why. But overall, just really interested by this and curious because I haven't heard anything about it, so excited to hopefully pick it up. But let me know if you have read it and what you thought of it. Alright, but those were all of the books that I bought or were sent to me by a publisher for this haul. I'm really excited about like almost every book on this list, and cannot wait to pick up the ones that I haven't read yet. But I would love it if you guys would tell me what you guys thought of any of these books, if you've read them, or which ones you're most excited to pick up. I'm definitely going to be holding up in my house and reading as much as I can and staying home and keeping other people safe, so I hope you'll be doing that as well if you are in a similar kind of situation where you live, and I hope you are all staying safe and warm. So thank you so much for watching. Go check out my Instagram, Twitter, and Goodreads in the description down below if you want to hear regular updates on my reading, and I will see you in my next video. So please remember that the story ain't over. Bye!